We're all too familiar with negative images of data exploitation. New oil, digital silkworms, surveillance capitalism. If you aren't the customer, you're the product. Even data subject might suggest that someone else is ruler. Perhaps things look better if we start from specific benefits we are aiming for, rather than from the data that might deliver them. Here's an interesting categorization of benefits from an early intelligent campus study. We might expect students and staff to be most keen on applications that directly benefit their learning or health, though the latter needs particular care because of the sensitive data involved. Social and environmental benefits apply less directly to individuals, but are nonetheless widely supported. Management and governance benefits may be the hardest to sell. And students do seem prepared to be altruistic about data. In a HEPI study, 77% of students were willing for their data to be used, subject to safeguards, to help others. So, how can we identify which benefits have the widest support? Discussing with students and staff seems obvious, and may be more natural in the collegiate setting of a university or college than in communities dominated by commercial or civic interests. Students and staff know the pain points of institutional systems, so should have the best ideas about which to fix, and maybe even how. Changes that address needs they didn't have will, at best, be ignored, and may be actively resisted. The consultation process should itself increase trust. Thinking back to the new oil and surveillance capitalism paradigms, there's plenty of scope to do better than those. We also need to discuss risks, and, as with benefits, we're mostly looking at risks to individuals, not directly to the institution. How do we identify and assess them? Will individuals feel they are acceptable in the light of the benefits on offer? How can we ensure they stay at the acceptable level? How can we detect and address changes in what's considered acceptable? How do we identify opportunities to improve? Again, we should include affected individuals in all these decisions. Risks should be part of our thinking at 3 stages. When designing a system, we should try to identify risks both to those who engage and, often harder, to those who do not. Once the system is in operation, we should keep checking how it is perceived, both by what people say about it and, more about this shortly, how they behave. And as soon as we spot trouble, we must resolve them quickly, always trying to address the root cause as well as specific symptoms. And periodically we should review whether the system delivered the benefits that were anticipated, or even more. Were there side effects, either unforeseen or worse than we had anticipated, and what can we learn from this experience that may help us get things right earlier, next time? On perceptions, there are some key warning signs to look out for when we introduce a new system. Do staff or students change behavior, either to reduce the amount of data we can collect about them, or to actively obfuscate the data we do collect? Is there less voluntary disclosure? Are students less willing to talk to their tutors, or to respond to surveys? If temperature checks involved active data gathering, response rates should be relatively high, taking the opportunity to welcome the benefits delivered. In the longer term, we should be seriously worried if response rates are lower than for statistical surveys that have little apparent benefit for those taking them. Worst of all, are staff or students switching to external services because they now consider ours too risky? This BBC report that students were switching to external counselling services, afraid that using internal ones would damage their academic record, should have raised a large red flag. A benefits-led approach, rather than the data-led one, should take us to different questions and attitudes. Should we do it comes before can we do it, not after, or never. Look at recent data exploitation headlines and see if you are likely to be painted in the same colours. And treat individuals as part of the team, helping to maximize the mutual benefit, not as a free raw material ripe for exploitation.